Hey physics class, Miss Amy here. I want to quickly go through our syllabus, make sure we're all on the same page for our 2025-26 year of physics at MC squared. First of all, most of you know me. My name's Amy Eversole. I'm teaching physics. I taught it for about 10 years until COVID hit. That was the last year we were able to have a full class. I ended up switching to chemistry because we lost a teacher who was handling that. So I'm excited to come back to physics for my last year before I graduate, have one last chance to have fun. If you need to contact me, I've got my email here, my phone number here. You also can message me on Facebook if you're on that. Please include a parent when you communicate with me just to play it safe. You guys are still technically children. I know I'm very close to not being children anymore. But go ahead and adhere to those safety rules of, since you're talking to me, a strange old person, keep your parent in the loop. Alrighty? Our textbook is the second edition of Apology is Exploring Creation with Physics. It looks kind of like this guy right here. And we'll be covering a module every other week in our class. At the end of the 2 weeks, me or my helper will check to make sure you've done all your assignments. So please keep the assignment sheet, and that assignment sheet that I referenced multiple times is right here at the end of our syllabus. Please keep that in your binder, preferably way up at the front or somewhere obvious, so that we can easily keep track of what you have and haven't done. There are some different things we're doing this year, so let me go through what a typical chapter will look like. One is you will have an equation sheet, and this is brand new, and it'll be cumulative. It'll be for the whole year. Every chapter you will add equations to this sheet. I'm giving you 3 ways to do it depending on what you think's best for your learning style and your learning preferences. One is you can try to typewrite it, and that means it needs to be formatted. So if there's an exponent, you make it tiny and small up where it's supposed to be up here, okay? So if that's the case, then you just have to keep that running. You'll have to reprint it so I know it's done. But each chapter you just go and add the new ones. And this is not going to be a huge deal for chapter 1, excuse me. There are 3 equations. They're usually highlighted in pink, and they have the equation number in parentheses off in the margin, and you'll find 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So this is not going to take long to do. But I do want you keeping track of it throughout the modules so you have them all in one place that you can reference. So again, option 1, you just type it up nicely formatted. That's all you have to do. Option 2, you're going to write it by hand. Now, since you're writing it by hand, and this can be done very, very quickly, then every module you write a new sheet starting from module 1. So every module you will copy everything you had up to this point and then add in the new equations. And that will help you remember it better. And finally, if you're really into art, you can do an artistic version, and that can go 2 different directions. One is you take the letters of the equation itself. So for example, we're going to have A equals delta V over delta T. And you're going to take those actual letters and incorporate them, their shapes, into some cool picture. The other option is you can make a diagram of some sort and, so draw a picture that illustrates the diagram and have the equation to there. So you can go either of those directions. Just don't do like a random doodle of a cat and then have the equation off to the side. That's completely unrelated. Your art should be related to your equation somehow if you choose that option. The other new thing I'm doing this year that is a little bit different is during lectures, I'm asking you to take notes and keep them. I will provide you an outline. This is what my professors do with our classes all the time, is I kind of give you the skeleton of what we're going to be talking about for the day, and then you fill in the details as we go through this. And this is for second period when we're doing, first period's more for doing labs, second period's more for discussing the material and practice solving the problems. So there may be a few main concepts that we need to go through first, and then lower on the notes I might say, have a few practice problems. So I've given you the example problem we're going to work, and you will actually write the steps out to the problem underneath the information I've given you. So you are free to embellish those if you want, do whatever you want, but you do at least need to do a minimum of filling in the information during class. As usual, with an Apologia book, you're expected to do the on your own problems. You can check those as you go. You're expected to do the practice problems and then have a parent check them. You have module tests and either have your parent grade it or have me grade it. And then the quarterly tests. However, the only quarterly test that falls due during term is quarter one. So that one is required for you to turn into me. The others you can turn into me if you want to, but I'm not going to mandate it because we're technically on break for all the others. And I'm going to jump down. I'm not sure why I put this thing in the binder before lab reports, because that's the other part of what we do. Each module is we do labs. So we will do pretty much all the labs in the book, even though a few of them I've majorly modified. But I'm only requiring you to write one lab report per module, which is less than half of what I've done with all the other classes that I've taught. So only one lab report per module. It has to be written up, but it does have to be typed. So this is giving you a chance to learn how to communicate better, to learn how to write up a nice report. It does not have to be perfect, but I do expect you to put some effort into it. When you come to class, you'll have started the report. Now, at that point, if you just want it on paper, that's fine. But when you come to class, you will have your name, the experiment name and number from the book, and like one line, purpose and hypothesis. That just shows me you've read it. Now, I do expect you to have read all the labs we do, whether they're the ones you eventually have to turn in or not. You need to read them before you come to class so that you're prepared. But the only ones you need to bring a sheet for are the ones that you'll eventually be turning in. Okay, when class is over and you've done the lab, by the time you finish that chapter, turn in your work, you need to have that lab report turned in. And then you'll include any data you've got, diagrams, anything in procedures and results, analysis. Sometimes it's a math-heavy report, so you got to do a little analysis, and then any conclusions and sources of error. You are welcome to bring your laptop or device or anything like that to class with you and actually be recording your observations into your document. That's fine. And when we finish early in first period, I will give you some time to continue writing it up, so you might be able to completely finish that lab report during class, depending on how the day goes. So like I said, one lab report per module. The other labs we'll treat as demos or observations. But that one lab report, I do want you to put some effort into. Take it a little seriously. I'm not worried about being perfect, but I do want, I want decent effort so that you're getting ready, especially for those of you who go to college and have to take a lab. I want you to make it readable, have clearly identified sections in it, and figure out how to organize it so it's easy to be understood, have decent conclusions and stuff in it to show that you've learned something. Or even if your lab went terribly wrong, you still say, this makes no sense because of this. I think the problem was whatever. All right. So lab reports also are done. I do want you to have a binder. You can divide it up more if you want, but at a minimum, I want these sections here just so it's easier for my helper and I to quickly check your work each week or every other week. And then every week, bring that binder, bring your textbook, bring a calculator. If you have a calculator on your phone, that's enough. Bring a protractor, a pencil, and a ruler each week. We'll only need the protractor a few times, so just shove it in a pocket of your backpack, and then hopefully you'll remember where it is the few times we need it. When you come to co-op, before we start our lab, we'll do a weekly warm-up quiz. The point of this, quick quiz, simple, no stress. The idea is I want to know, are you learning? Are you paying attention? Do you get the big point of what we're doing? So it'll be quick. It'll be the notes sheets you fill in during our classes you can use, and your equation sheet you can use, but you cannot use your book. It will cover any really big stuff in the chapter we're learning right now, but a lot of it will be the old stuff. Make sure you're not forgetting it. Any math equations, it will be real simple, just quick ones. None of the super hard, there's no trigonometry, substitution, any of the hard equations. There's only a few chapters in this year that are a little more math intense, and they do unfortunately hit the first semester, but not the first few chapters. There are a couple of them that are a little bit harder than others, but for the most part, it's not too bad. But on these warm-ups, we're not even doing that. We're just doing real basic stuff. So it might be a very basic math question, but mostly I'm going to be making sure you remember what the different letters, variables stand for, what the major things you should have remembered, the big concepts are, stuff like that. And I'll continue what I did in chemistry a couple years ago is I'll put like maybe 12 points worth of questions, but I'll grade it out of 10 because we're not going for perfection here. We're just looking to see that everybody is doing a decent job of remembering things and gets a little friendly reminder when when they're slacking off. Okay, so 5 minutes quiz, then we do labs. If we have extra time, you can work on lab reports. Second period, we are in the same class, but I will try to give you guys a bit of a break or when the bell rings, unless we just have a lab we are in the middle of and have to clean up. But second period, that's when we discuss concepts from the chapter and work practice problems, make sure we're doing okay with that. If you complete assignments on time, we award points. And I will give you the details of that once school starts and I get your food preferences. That helps me figure out how many points things are worth. But the points are not just for you finishing on time, but the higher percent of a class that is on schedule, the more points the whole class earns. And when the class earns enough points, we get breakfast in class. All right, for grading, taking the tests is not an option. Who grades it is. Your mom or dad can grade your test, or I can. If your parent grades it, just have them record the score on the assignment sheet. So they would just come in here and write the score somewhere. It doesn't matter where. I don't care what grading scale you use as long as it's consistent. I just want to be able to tell if your grade really dips for a chapter. I'm like, ooh, okay, that means there's a category we need to go over again, especially if I see multiple students who all are struggling with a chapter. Maybe we need to go through that. Maybe it's a chapter we never use the material again and we just say good riddance, but some of these build on each other and that means we need to review it more. One new thing I am doing, if you are having me grade your test, is for up to 3 problems per test, I am going to specify how you show your work. Now, anytime you use a calculator, you should write down your work because I don't read your mind. All right, so that should be no matter what. But I'm going to have this format right here that I will give you, that I want you to do this. Now, for the rest of them, you show your work how you want, but I want you to do it this way because it helps me grade it. It helps me see where your issues might be. For Module 1, this will be problems 6, 7, and 8. And because we're starting here and we don't get to meet in person, for Module 1, I'm going to put a document up online that basically makes it a fill-in-the-blank option. So like here, this is an example problem, but say the problem said something like, a car is traveling east at 8 meters per second. Your job is to translate that into mathiness. So take that sentence and say, okay, in math terms, I'm saying V equals 8 meters per second east. So what I'm going to do for Module 1 is I'm going to actually say like V equals, and you just have to fill it in. So I'm going to make it a little bit easier so you get the hang of it, and then you'll be, for the other modules, hopefully you'll be more independent in that. As far as final grades go, I really leave that up to the parents. I think that co-op is just the beginning in your educational journey, and there's so much more you can do, and it really depends on what you want out of life, where you're going. If you're planning on being a science major in college, you need to take this class relatively seriously so that college is not as much of a shock. If this is the last science class you ever take, then you just really want to learn about how this world that God gave us works, and you don't necessarily need all the rigor. So there are a lot of ways you can grade it. It's totally up to the parents. I can tell you with my kids, a lot of times my philosophy is, how about you do your work until I say it's worth an A. So go back and fix this, or go do this, or whatever. So if you really want to do it by the numbers, here's an example of how you can break it down, but that's completely up to you of what you actually do. My biggest request is, please, parents, watch your students as they are doing the tests and even the practice problems. Please make sure they don't have access to AI or the solutions manual. The AI is a relatively new challenge, even though even a couple years ago I could see it creeping in. The solutions manual has been an age-old challenge, and like I said, I've been teaching this material more than 10 years. I know it really well, and I can also tell when students are getting their answers from somewhere other than just their brain. It matches too well to the solutions manual. They get too many digits, or they get rounding errors that they would not get otherwise. It's just the way it works. The way calculators work is a little different for everybody, and so you will actually get decimals off that won't match the book. And also, as far as AI goes, I mean, we do get to use it occasionally for my grad school, not as our answers, but we can compare stuff, and it's not always right, trust me. Even when it sounds right, it's not. So please don't cheat yourself out of thinking through it yourself. I know so many students, I don't think they're trying to cheat. I think they're just trying to check, but they just naturally see what the next stage is. Or they just naturally, they've already happened to notice the next answer as they were checking the last one. So please monitor your students, help them get out of this class what they should be getting out of this class. If you decide that your family just absolutely has to let them use the solution manual or has to do whatever when they're taking a test, I will not fight you on that, but don't ask me to grade the test. All right, that is just not fair to me to grade a test that they are basically grading themselves as they do it. They don't need me anymore. They're just turning it in to get a box checked off. So if you absolutely need to do something different, then that's okay, but that does mean you're doing the parent grading version instead of me, and you're just reporting that score to me. Don't ask me to spend my time grading it if there's no point in it being graded, if that makes sense. All right. So school class assignments do actually start Monday, the 18th, which by the time this is posted might be today. It's tomorrow for me right now. Chapter 1 is not a hard chapter, so don't panic if you don't have a lot of time to spend on it right away. You do have 2 weeks to get this done, so when we show up for class on the 29th is when you should be finished with Module 1. Again, that's your official due date because we have to move on with Module 2, but I don't count anything late the first day of co-op. So do what you can. If you have questions, let me know. Bring in what you've finished, and then get the rest of it done like that weekend or as soon as you can, because you'll have to start on Module 2 the Monday after co-op. So each week I have the Monday through Friday dates here. If it's in italics or kind of grayed out, those are things you do at home. Most of the time, if I gray out the whole line, there are no assignments, but occasionally, we're off long enough at Christmas, I do have to give you a little bit of an assignment, or else we won't get anything done. We will skip Module 12, if you notice here. I love that chapter. It is so much fun, but it does not affect any of the remaining chapters, and since we don't have 32 weeks to go through this, I have to give up something. So Module 12, you just fit in when you want. If you want to be done sooner, we have 2 spring breaks, and you can get it done during the spring breaks, but we won't do it as a group. Also, our last meeting, we will not have started Module 16 yet. If we get a makeup day, which we almost always need the makeup day, we can go through it at least a little bit together, but it will not be due until co-op is over. So here are your assignments. When it says alternate, that means I am going to change the rules. I think there's a few more down here I did not mark that we may also, like instead of using spoons as resistors, it's just like, well, why don't I just bring in real resistors when we do electricity? So there's a few others, but there are some I marked that we're definitely changing up. And that's about it. So I hope this makes sense. If you have questions, let me know. And we will meet Friday, the 29th. We will meet. Whatever you have done for Module 1, bring. Your lab report from 1.1, I'm looking at this as a starting point. So make a good effort at it. And the idea is we will have better lab reports in the near future. Bring your book with you, bring your binder, bring your materials, and just be ready to have fun in physics. It is a really fun thing to learn. We get to throw things during lab, and it's a fun class. We get to learn some really cool stuff. Unlike chemistry, I think it's a little bit easier because you can just visualize everything that's happening more easily. So I look forward to this class, and I will see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks.